It's 9:35 now here on WDEL Thursday, March 11th. Welcome into Delaware. I'm Peter MacArthur, talking about the job odyssey that has been the market of late, the jobs market, and talking with Chris Burkhardt, Placer Staffing, like we do from time to time to get his perspective on things. Chris, good morning to you.
Good morning and happy Thursday to you, Peter.
Yeah, they're all pretty good, aren't they? Let's start this week with unemployment claims. Chris, thoughts on the number and what the trends are now that we are into March?
Well, in looking at the trends, we've been averaging claims around 760,000 per week since Thanksgiving. So last week there was a small drop. This week, 712,000. It's a pretty sizable drop. We are just about at the lowest point since the pandemic began. I think we got to just about this point in the fall. We probably all remember your term odyssey fits. Things were relaxing. People were starting to feel good. We were still able to eat outside. And then things kind of turned around as the pandemic came back. Winter came. So we're back to that spot, and I think that is really good news.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a pretty erratic pattern of claims for the next few months. Those that stop working are looking for work are going to re-enter. That's going to raise the number of claims. I think they'll go up temporarily. But there is really good news. I think there's more vaccines in arms. I think kids are going back to school at least a little bit more, and moms and dads can get back to work.
Chris, the number a lot of people didn't see coming, 389,000 jobs created in February. I guess question to you is, what industries benefited from that boost, and what are some that are still struggling?
Well, I'll tell you, I saw it coming. We felt it. And I've got two parts to this question. I'll address the industries that led in hiring, and then I have a couple of interesting trends just about to the day, because I'm not sure it's anything to celebrate, but today's the infamous anniversary of the pandemic. So interesting to see how it's changed. But payrolls climbed in leisure and hospitality. In fact, it was a huge jump. Manufacturing, temporary staffing, and healthcare, but not hospitals. It was rather in doctor and dental offices. And I think that's a sign that maybe healthcare is getting back to operating outside of emergencies and COVID. Now we got warmer weather, vaccines, changing restrictions, stimulus. I think you'll see leisure and hospitality get back to business here in the coming months.
All right, another two-parter for you, Chris. You break it down however you want. But the stimulus package being teed up by the government, what impact do you think that has on the continued recovery? That's kind of part one. And with news of stimulus focused nationally, what locally can we see or maybe focus on to further the recovery closer to home?
Well, I think the stimulus is going to be fuel for a much faster recovery. You've got Americans that have been saving at a record pace. If you make less than $75,000 as an individual or less than $150,000 as a married couple, you're going to get a $1,400 direct payment pretty quickly here. And I believe rather than being saved, this money is going to be spent, especially with increasing vaccinations and lifting restrictions from the lower infection rates. The other thing is there are still 12 million people that are unemployed, and that's a big deal and a big problem and a big part of what is at the end of this pandemic. But help has been provided as 2 unemployment programs have been extended through the summer through September 6th. So that's unemployment, regular unemployment, and, you know, the boost of $300 to your state benefit is kind of a big deal. I think it means that if you're unemployed, you can be guaranteed $600 a week, and that helps. And the other is the self-employed gig worker program, which is extended for another 25 weeks. There's a lot of other good stuff in this bill, too, about helping curb poverty, child tax credits, helping with health care. So there's a lot of good and potential if this is executed well.
Sounds good. 1 year, as you mentioned, since the lockdowns kind of got underway, Chris. What do you see as some of the lasting impacts that have been present to workers and their approach to how they work today as opposed to how they did 52 weeks ago?
Well, I found 4 for the U.S. workforce. And, you know, for all of us, it was shortages of stuff, toilet paper and all that stuff, and Zoom fatigue. But for the worker, it's the choice of working from home and where one lives. This was a novelty, but now it's mainstream, and it's reshaping where people live. They're moving to more rural and suburban areas and how they work. And it's now viewed as a very important to the workforce. And it's become an obvious point of division for essential workers. The second point is the respect and understanding of the essential worker. We now know who is really most essential to keeping us fed and to keeping the lights on, et cetera. And that focus on that worker safety, their challenges, and perhaps most importantly, their challenges with their careers are much more understood. Third point, the way we work. I don't know about you, but it seems like time is very distorted. Mm-hmm. Folks are working kind of around the clock. They're flexing hours because they've got kids in the house, or it's a very blurry line between the kitchen table and your home office. So where does the workday begin and end? And then finally, juggling parents as workers and teachers. I think on a good side, there's been a rethinking of company policies that give workers more flexibility or benefits to help. On the bad side, we lost 4 million workers to those that are caring for their kids. They've had to set aside their careers. We have the lowest percentage of women working in the workforce since 1988. And my opinion is it's going to be critical for companies and for government to have policies to focus on how they recruit to get women back to work as the pandemic eases.
Yeah, I got to say, Chris, obviously there are factions of the job market, various industries that have been hammered by all this. But overall, to me, the ingenuity, the flexibility that even those businesses that had a really hard time showed is quite something. And I think sets up well for, God forbid, something else like this that comes down the pipe in the future, you know?
I agree. Pete, there are 9.5 million less jobs than this day last year.
Yeah.
And many of them are government, about 1.5 million. 3.5 million are restaurants, travel, hotels. But manufacturing is still down, and service is still down. So we have a long way to go, even though there's good news in the last, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and we will take that. Chris Burkhart joining us, Placers Staffing in Newark. We will talk again soon, sir. Have a good rest of the week.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.